Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. In this podcast, we'll be having discussions around the secrets which attract lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationships, creating a healthy mindset, and what women should know and understand about men. Introducing your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts, relationship expert, trainer, speaker, and best-selling author of the Cupid's Bow technique. Lyn's mission is to have a positive impact in reducing divorce, domestic violence, and suicide.
Welcome to the HEARTS Entwined podcast. This is your host, Lyn Smith, the Queen of Hearts. And today we've got some juicy topics that we're going to be discussing all around sex and sex coaching. And I've got a very lovely expert. Her name is Jeni Simas. So welcome, Jeni.
Hi, Lyn. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm interested in discussing this because this is a really juicy topic, and no doubt we're going to be covering, some adult content. So for those precious ears that shouldn't be listening, this may have an 18+ warning on it.
Well, thanks so much for having me on. I can't wait to talk about this and, answer any questions that might come up. How do you want me to get started? Would you just like to hear how I got interested in sex coaching, or where would you like me to go? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That would have been my first question, basically. How you got into this particular niche, I suppose, would be my question.
Right. So I got divorced at the beginning of the first lockdown for the COVID-19 pandemic. Actually, rather, my marriage ended then. The divorce didn't happen for another couple of years. In the time between when my marriage ended and when the divorce was finalized, I had been a stay-at-home military wife for 12 years. I was trying to figure out where I was going to go for work. I have a son with severe special needs and a daughter who, has some anxiety issues. I at first started working in the school systems as an aide for other kids who have as severe autism as my son, and quickly burnt out. Doing that at home and at work all day and night and weekend, it was too much. So talking to a friend, I thought, okay, well, maybe I could go back into theater. No, that takes a lot of time. I've got 2 kids now. I'm older now. I can't work 80 hours a week and still have energy. That's what my bachelor's was theater performance. So I started talking to this friend who's actually my ex-husband's cousin, and she said, you can just talk to anyone about sex. You should be a sex coach. And I said, that's a thing. And so I started researching it, and she has all these certifications in life coaching and relationship coaching and speaking to people with spirituality. And we found this program called Sexual Health Alliance. Shout out to Shah. And they are churning out all the sex coaches, sex therapists, sex educators in the United States, a lot of them. There are other schools, but this program was so intensive, and it got you in touch with people like Dr. Justin Lehmiller, who has the podcast Sex and Psychology, who works at the Kinsey Institute, Dr. David Lay, who wrote books like Insatiable Wives, Women Who Stray, and The Men Who Love Them. It was just all of this exposure to people. Jet Setting Jasmine, who's this woman who is not only a licensed social worker, but also a porn star who runs her own porn production company. I mean, seriously. So I got this intense education. It was supposed to take 18 months to 2 years. I finished my certification in 14 months, and I was out the door. I made my company the Intimacy Ally LLC, and then started my podcast, Storytime with the Intimacy Ally, so that I could just get this message out to get rid of the shame, blame, and fear surrounding sex. So that's the mission that I'm on. Yeah.
Excellent. I love that, because there is a lot of shame, blame, and guilt around how we pleasure ourselves or seek pleasure, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Especially, well, honestly, there's a lot of things at play. What I've learned so far, fundamentalist religion has a big part in just making sex a bad thing. Also, our society at large just really, really likes to hammer home that women are not supposed to be sexualized unless men say so. And that is something that I absolutely hate. Um, Also, there's all of this discussion about consent nowadays, but I don't think people understand how consent works. Like they kind of think that consent is like this blanket statement that happens at the beginning of a relationship or the beginning of a marriage, and it can never be taken back. And if it is taken back, well, then that's mean and you're being a cold fish. Um, so those are things that I really set out to explore when I got into my coaching. I started out last summer running a group online that was free that met once a week talking to women, and it was basically to boost their sexy self-esteem, and to teach them that they don't have to fit like this kind of Barbie doll cookie cutter body type.
Mm.
The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor, a book that I recommend everyone read, because you're beautiful in so many ways and you don't have to fall into this like capitalist society idea that you need a bunch of makeup or you have to have your hair done a certain way or you must fit into a size 2. No, 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 no. Beautiful and full of sass with any size ass is something that I like to tell my ladies that I'm working with.
That's great. Yeah, yeah, that
So, yeah.
100% love that. Because I do think, and this is down to societal pressure, isn't it? It's down to
Hmm.
media and magazines and what we see in films and on TV as what we accept as being beautiful and the correct size of how and shape of how we should look.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And, you know, while we are getting that messaging as females, I acknowledge that also the men are getting messaging that that is what you need to find. You need to find that girl on the side of the beer truck. You are going to be worth less than a guy who gets that trophy girlfriend if you settle for, a girl who doesn't fit that profile. So I'm trying to work on both sides of this, trying to engage men in conversation that they don't need to look for that, while also they don't need to be some kind of like porn star ideal looking either. And that the women should not have to think that like, their vaginas have to be perfectly symmetrical or whatever. And their boobs aren't going to be, one smaller than the other one. Like, this is how bodies are. And I want everyone to be able to accept their bodies, not just like accept, like, okay, this is mine and I get it, but like really, really worship each other's bodies. Like, yes, this is my body. This is the only one that I get. I need to know that my brain and my body, they are working together. And the only way that I can seek pleasure, seek relationships that are fulfilling, and become like this sexually evolved person is first like, all right, I got this. This is what I'm working with. I'm either going to make changes or I'm going to embrace the living shit out of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do feel that men have a similar issue, to be honest with you, because aren't a lot of men portrayed in a negative light if they're bold, for example. And I actually love bald men, with the buzz cuts, and I've usually, have had a tendency in the past to be very attracted to those guys. And I love hairy bodies, and it's become a thing that men think they have to shave it all off. And I'm like,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. It is a thing. I don't know. Like, I feel like there is this whole kind of dad bod movement, and I'm into that. But also, I'm like, where is the mom bod movement? Like,
Yes.
when will it be all right? That we just, jiggle and flap and have these things that have happened to us because we carried children. Like, come on, or even if we didn't carry children, bodies change, and let's go ahead and just figure out the best ways to use them for pleasure because your body's going to get used up in this life, whether it's through work, whether it's through sport, whether it's through pleasure. So why not stick some of that expectation, that sexpectation, on getting the most pleasure and kind of a divine experience out of enjoying your body, whether that's with somebody else in the room or not.
Absolutely. Love what you're saying. And it can take a lot, can't it, for women to get to a point where they can accept themselves and love themselves for truly what they look like, whether that's face or body. And what
Mm-hmm.
would be your gem of wisdom around, a starting point for that process?
So I actually walk any of the women who I work with through a couple of exercises that I created for myself when I was thinking about rejoining, like actually going out and looking for somebody again after the divorce. Um, I wrote this one poem of affirmations called Not Just Enough, You Are Plenty. And we all read it together, like in group, basically just letting each of us know that we are not like this. We're not like this. Here, I have a better example actually. When I first did start getting on those dating sites, when I started getting the ideas of how I was going to work with the women that I engaged with as a sex coach, um, I got a lot of responses that were about, oh, well, you're kind of like not really attractive and short, fat, old, whatever. I'm into that. I'm totally into that. Like, you know, basically trying to say, you're disgusting, but I'm into that because that makes me feel better as a man. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry that you don't think that I'm attractive enough for you to act like I'm a goddess, but yeah, go fuck yourself. Um, so having
Yeah.
taken that lesson, I rolled it into this affirmation poem, basically saying to these women and with these women, look, you don't have to be anyone else's ideal of beauty. You need to be able to get up and look in the mirror and say, holy shit, look at those eyelashes. Or, oh my God, my tits look amazing today. Oh my God. Or, wow, when I smack that, God, my ass jiggles amazingly. Holy crap. So that is one of the first things that I do with any women who I feel, and I mean, honestly, it's pretty much every woman who comes to me has some sort of issue with body positivity, and that's okay. Like, I don't want you to get like ridiculous about it. I don't want you to think like, oh, everything's cheery and fine if your body is betraying you, going through perimenopause, going through menopause, or you're just having a rough time, or it just has not been the body that you have envisioned in your head. Like, I don't want it to be like a toxic positivity situation, but I do want you to be able to stand in the mirror for 5 seconds, completely naked, take it all in, and be able to jot down something, just one thing that you like about your body. It can be your eyelashes. It can be your eyebrows. It can be your hair. It can be the way that your ears poke out or don't. It can be the way that your nipples stand at attention and you think that's really cool. Um, it can be the shape of where your thighs hit your pubis. Like, there's so many things that when you start engaging with yourself and really just taking a little bit of time, it can be 5 seconds at a time. Just look in the mirror and understand you are beautiful and we are all made of fucking stardust. So you are fucking celestial. So go ahead and appreciate yourself. I start them out with 5 seconds, work your way up to a minute, work your way up to 5 minutes. And before you know it, you're probably going to be wanting to get a toy and some lube and enjoy yourself while you look at yourself doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and it is about making that small initial first step, isn't it? And I know for me initially, it was quite hard to look in the mirror and think, I love that person and that adult woman that I'm staring at right now. But one of the exercises I also teach is if you can't do it from a point of view of where you're at right now, looking at yourself as you are right now, maybe you can learn to love the little girl that you once were. Imagine that
Mm.
little girl that you're looking at and give her a lot of love and hugs. And sometimes that is a good way to just open the door to that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that sounds so lovely. Yeah. Usually if I'm working with somebody who's having a lot of trouble with past trauma, childhood trauma, even some of the more serious like interpersonal issues or intimate partner violence, anything like that. I have an eclectic network of licensed clinicians who I can work with, like in a triadic model, or I can say, okay, I feel like this person needs more in-depth help, and I'm a very ethically minded person, and I will hand someone off and, obviously kind of help them understand and trust the person. But like I have all of these clinicians that I can engage with and just say, okay, there is a lot more going on here than I am comfortable treating with. So, and that's what I end up doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as women, I think we tend to be a bit more collaborative in that way, aren't we? And know that, if we're not a perfect fit for that particular client at that particular moment in time, and there's somebody else that would be a better fit, we're happy to do that, aren't we?
Yeah, because the end goal is like, seriously, I want to help as many women as I can get through and get to the other side, get through that goo phase. But the goo phase is so important. The goo phase for caterpillar and the chrysalis. It's so important. And I like to be there for that. I like to see the transformation. I like to see the work that I can inspire someone to do for themselves. Um, and I guess that's the beauty of sex coaching versus, therapy or education. Like with therapy, that might be going on for years and years. Sex coaching, it's very quick, and you learn a couple of skills from me that you end up evolving for the rest of your life. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch and to know. And because I'm not a therapist, I get to know my clients after we stop working together. So that's also pretty cool.
Yeah, I totally understand and agree with that because, yeah, I've always been part of the coaching fraternity, and I do feel like we're generally more inclined to see our clients as empowered people already. They just haven't got the tools yet to, use that empowerment for themselves rather than as patients that need to be fixed.
Right, right. They just need, like a little flashlight shine and, perhaps a little nudge just to get on that different path. And it's wild to see someone just absolutely embrace themselves after just a few sessions. I love it. Yeah, it's really, really special.
What do you think for you has been the main problem that you see regularly occur with the clients that you tend to attract, Jeni?
Well, when I work with single women, it's generally they've been kind of shrugged off by uh, the medical profession about how much sex should play into their happiness. They're like, oh, well, you're of an age, so I guess yeah, it's just kind of how it is. You can get on this hormone therapy, and that's pretty much all you can do. Um, if they're coming in with, like dryness issues, trouble achieving orgasm, um, trouble achieving orgasm with someone else in the room. Most of the time, I try to get them to understand that toys and lube are the best things ever, and they should be used whether you have a partner or you don't. And making that more acceptable will bring a lot more pleasure into a lot more women's lives.
Yes, and I think again, we've been brought up with a bit of shame and guilt around those sort of items, haven't we?
Yeah, and also like the men are kind of programmed that if the woman were to need those things, oh, well, then they must be doing something wrong. And it's completely emasculating, but it's like, no, it's not that you're doing something wrong. It's just our pleasure centers are on the outside, my man. Um, if you're able to have an orgasm vaginally, well, you are one of the precious few. Clitoral stimulation is where it's at. And don't be mad if mama wants to bring in a magic wand. Like, that's what's up.
I like that magic wand. And let's
Mm-hmm.
face it, we know that masturbation goes on for men without needing to
Mm-hmm.
have women present, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah, I'm very of the mind that we need to normalize porn consumption, masturbation, and lubrication for women to have pleasure for their lifetime, because it is possible to just be able to continue having orgasms for the rest of your life.
That reminds me of a wonderful old lady that I met. I mean, I must have been about 15 at the time, something like that. But as part of some sort of, I don't know, whatever topic or subject I was studying at school, we were visiting an old people's home and befriending, some of the old people that hadn't had any visitors for years and were just quite lonely and wanting somebody to talk to. And I got friendly with this lady and used to visit her regularly to the point where she actually quite openly spoke about sex, and she said to me, she says, just because there's snow on the roof, she says, don't think there's no fire in the grate.
Damn right. Damn right, lady. That's right. Oh man, that makes me think of one of my sexuality heroes. Unfortunately, she passed at like the beginning of the pandemic, but she was like 93 and she was still running body sex courses, teaching people how to masturbate. She Betty Dodson was fantastic. Somebody should definitely look up. And she wrote Sex for One, The Joy of Self-Loving. And she was such an inspiration to me. She did create this whole movement called body sex, and they have like groups where they teach women how to masturbate, like in the group. It's fascinating because a lot of women didn't get even not even the education, but the privacy and
Mm.
the allowance. Think about it, or at least I remember, like, oh, your brother's in his room. Don't bother him. Don't bother him. That was not afforded to me or my sisters, but my brothers, it was like, oh, he's 14. Yeah, leave him alone. Oh, he'll be in there a minute, we
Yeah.
don't get that, you know? So I feel like that should definitely be a thing that we in parent age are normalizing. Like, oh, leave her the hell alone. She's busy. She's self-regulating in one of the most fantastic ways.
And it should be encouraged as a topic, for discussion in schools, because there ought to be professionals like ourselves teaching about relationships and how to have healthy relationships, not just with others, but with ourselves in schools, rather
Mm-hmm.
than, just the unlucky teacher of the day just getting nominated. Oh, you're doing the sex talk today in the biology class, which is
Oh
normally
yeah.
what you get.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's pretty sad what sex education is made up of. I don't know there, but here it's so sad. I think it's 19 out of the 50 states require any sex ed in high school. And don't quote me on that. I'll get the good statistic for you at some point. I think only 16 of them have to be like medically correct. So, and a lot of places where there are more fundamentalist religious people, they're still teaching, religious sex ed or, abstinence is the only way. That doesn't help anyone. It's been proven over and over again. It doesn't lower STI rates. It doesn't lower teen pregnancy rates. But what I believe would, teaching girls how to have orgasms without anyone else in the room, letting people know that things exist like professional cuddlers or surrogate partners so that you can get your intimacy needs met in a way that doesn't involve a relationship that you are not emotionally intelligent enough to carry out yet because you're 13 or 14 and your brain won't stop developing for another decade.
Hmm.
You know? That's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's, like you say, in areas where there is that religious indoctrination, that's where the shame is often brought in, isn't it? Because, certain things are considered sinful.
Oh, the shame and yeah, and just making it so hard for people to be their true selves if they are anything but cisgender, totally heterosexual, most cases, white. If you don't stick to that narrative, you are considered like the other, and then you get shamed, or you get even worse, tried to change. And yeah, not a fan of any of that.
No, and it's certainly not conducive to whether it's women or men. A positive mental health attitude in later life. It just causes stress in the body, which then obviously then leads to illness in the body, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty gross what we put these kids through and then expect them to come out and be, you know, absolutely perfectly performing adults. It's like, no, we need to help a lot more at the initial phases when people are starting to experiment, when people are starting to think sexually, we should be sharing information on how consent works. We should be sharing information on body autonomy, body appreciation for all body types. Um, yeah, I just think that there's a lot of lessons that are getting missed when we're going through puberty, and it comes out again and again and again in adulthood.
And then we wonder why we've got all these failed relationships and high
Mm-hmm.
divorce statistics, and not only failed relationships, but people getting into unhealthy, toxic relationships as well.
Yeah, I worry more about like the staying in toxic relationships than I do the ending unhappy relationships. I'm like, okay, go ahead, get divorced and married 5 times. You feel like you got to be married because that's, how you like to be. Uh, cool. Go ahead and get divorced and married 5 times as long as you're not getting hurt and as long as you're not hurting someone else and as long as there's mutual respect and everyone's listening, then great. But I don't want people staying because they think that they have to be partnered up in order to be happy. I don't want people staying because they think it's the norm. You must be partnered up. Um, and I don't want people staying in relationships that don't fit the style of relationship they want to be in. Like there's so many. Uh, you don't just have to be monogamous for the rest of your life. The polyamory and however you want to call it, you can call it polyamory, you can call it consensual non-monogamy, you can call it ethical non-monogamy. It all comes about the same way. If you are looking to have more partners than, the standard monogamous relationship allows for, I want you to talk about that. And it could even be that, okay, now you're an empty nester and you just realize this is something that you've always wanted to try and you want to talk to your partner about it. That's another thing that I do is help have those conversations, kind of like facilitate those conversations with partners.
And I definitely think that's a good idea, because I think people go into that not realizing what possible repercussions there might be, and without even really thinking about what possible repercussions could be.
Right. And, there's a big difference between willfully going out and committing adultery or cheating on your long-term partner and having a conversation that, is talking about, I'd like to try swinging or I'd like to try dating someone like as a couple, or would it be all right if I dated outside of our relationship? That's all very different than, well, I'm going to go out and cheat because I've decided that I'm non-monogamous. No. That's not how that works. You have to have conversations and you have to get consent. And you have to also make sure that you are not coercing, because if you are getting consent, but it's because you threaten to leave someone and they're scared of how or of how their life will be without you, well, that's not genuine consent. That's something that I learned when I went through the School of Consents, like a pro training. You cannot have an authentic yes without a safe no.
Great, I love that. So, Jenny, what is the best way that people can connect with you if they're interested in reaching out?
I'd say probably the easiest way is to go to my website. It is www.theintimacyally.com. Or you can find me pretty much on any social media at The Intimacy Ally.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any final tips or words of wisdom around this topic of sex coaching?
I guess I'll just end with how I tell people on my podcast that we're ending. It's where we we agree to say fuck no to the status quo. And that's what I hope everyone who engages with me or listens to me does. I want you to absolutely say no to just accepting things as the way they are if they don't make you happy and don't bring you pleasure.
And then we all within that, the message is embrace your own uniqueness, because we are all different, and we don't want to be Barbie doll cookie cooked, because that's what makes us unique, is that we are different from each other.
Yeah, and the only lens that really matters is your own. Yeah.
Very true. So I'll just leave it there. And thank you very much, Jeni. It's been a very insightful conversation.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I hope I'll be back.
Yes. I'd love to invite you back.
Well,
We'll
thanks so much, Lyn.
We'll be definitely having some other episodes with Jeni. So thank you for that. And so it just leaves me to say, listeners, that true love starts with opening our hearts. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Hearts Entwined podcast. You can follow Lyn via the Facebook group Two Hearts Entwined, or search Lyn Smith, inspirational speaker, at LinkedIn, or email lyn@hearts-entwined.com. That's LYN@hearts-entwined.com. Remember, true love starts with opening our hearts.